Testing, testing. Hi, Adam.
Hey.
Hey
Morning.
guys doing?
We got Corey, Adam, Blake Everett, Charles, Autumn Goodridge, and all sorts of other people. Ooh, let me scroll sideways. Wow. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, that's a ton. It's a good turnout.
Oh yeah.
Charles repping the actual parkour gym in the background.
Oh, not of mine.
Tyler, we'll probably give it just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. I have a question. Can you guys see any of what's on my board?
A little
No.
bit. There's
A little tiny.
glare.
I had a feeling. Let's see.
Yeah, the
Is there
lights
any way-
are shining on your board.
Yeah, let me see. I have smart lights. I might be able to do something. This is great. Okay. How about nope. Can you guys see? I mean, it doesn't really matter too much.
You could just like pick your laptop up and hold us up to it, like we're your little toddler child and you're showing us something.
Yeah, let's see if it works. Oh, do it
Not-
Instagram style. Hey
Not
guys.
totally inaccurate to our overall personas.
Just gonna pretend you're my dad when you do that.
Well, this is kind of fun.
Oh, Dad! Yay!
That actually
Sure.
works. What a great suggestion that was.
I like this.
Yeah. All right. So can you guys see it now? Yeah. I can see that you can see
Yeah,
it.
and pretty soon I'll pin you, Tyler, so that when people talk, it doesn't jump around or whatever.
Cool. Sounds good.
I think we'll give it 2 more minutes. So on my time at 1:04, I'll just hand it entirely to you. I just want to give a couple of folks his last bit of time to get in.
Sweet. Oh, question. While I'm going at the very beginning, I need to ask a question. Will people be able to answer? Like,
Yeah, we can
I don't
either
need to
do
see
that
stuff.
just like shout outs verbally, and we'll try to deal with that. Or if you want to use the chat feature, we could use the chat feature.
Yeah, I'll do just verbal. It should be easy enough.
Nothing I like better than just yelling at Tyler. Sounds great.
Yeah. Is that Justin?
Hey, boo boo. Good to see you, man.
Hey, good morning. What's up?
I am sick as a dog and in bed, so I'm gonna save all of you from having to look at my even more than normal terrifying face.
Yeah, it's
I
bad
just
enough
saw
normally.
your name. That's the only way I could tell. Hope you feel better soon.
Thanks, boo boo. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You. Stretch.
Tyler, who are you wearing?
Hey, Adam,
Mm-hmm.
can you record this? Because I have to drive around and
Yep.
with
It's
Mom's
been
home.
recording even since the 10 minutes of it being nothing but me not having my camera on and not talking. So you get to enjoy all of that.
Amazing. Thank you.
No problem. The recording will be sent out to anyone who purchased a ticket on Eventbrite. Any of the 2 Eventbrites that you may have interacted with, it will be sent to. So you'll be all good there. In fact, because I'm about to hand it to Tyler, I'll keep working the lobby as people come in. But I do want to apologize. There was a small mix-up in the original pre-planning, even before some of my time. And there were 2 Eventbrites made, and they weren't even made with all the right details done the same way. So there was probably some confusion out there. And on behalf of USPK, I would like to apologize for that. But all of you seem to have made it, so I'm grateful for that. The people who aren't here but should have been are probably the ones who need the apology. Hopefully there's not too many, or maybe there's none. But anyway, apologies for the confusion on the multiple Eventbrites. And I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to our first speaker. Tyler, you can introduce yourself. You can do whatever you like. It's all you.
Sweet. Hello. I guess we could do hand raise, right? Hand raise, who here knows me? Knows who I am, what I do? Tells me what to start with.
I know you.
I also, yeah.
I got to hang out with you when you came to Apex.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I'll do like a brief, like, hey, here's who I am, and then I'll get quickly moving into it because I want to have some time for Q&A at the end. So my name is Tyler. I started Hopsco a few years ago. We are a clothing brand out of Southern California, but I make stuff specifically for parkour. Now we also are offering print shop services to any parkour business. And yeah, I run that currently. And the topic of my thing today is how have I made it to where just selling clothes is my full-time thing that I do? Because that's been a hard thing for a lot of people to accomplish. And yeah, I'm just here to explain kind of how I've made that happen. Any questions?
Why are you so handsome, sir?
I showered this morning, and I quick shout out to mom and dad, you know?
That's good.
And thank you. All right. Well, with that said, I will say from here on, I'm going to ask for questions at the end, but I do have one more question. This is a fun one. Okay, so there's two routes that I can go in this presentation. I could go starting from a capitalistic perspective or from a more collectivist perspective, or like, I guess, moral-led perspective. What would you guys prefer? I hear
Behind the
collectivism.
mission,
Nice.
so I think that's moral led.
Nice. Okay, cool.
I have
Nice.
another question. What is your website so I can check it out while you're talking?
Yeah, my website
Good
is
question.
hops-shop.com.
Hops-shop.com.
Yeah,
Cool.
nice. I saw Corey said both would be interesting, and that's great. I'm going to point out I will be doing both. So someone asked a question. Can you touch on, how do I read this? Oh, chat. Okay, there we go. Yeah, the difference in the options, just it's simply just where we start. So there's two different starting points for the presentation, and it just changes where. I'm going to get moving though. I think people will enjoy the collectivist version, and I'll also be talking about the more capitalistic perspective at the same time. Okay, cool. So to get started, we're going to start not here. Not here. We're going to start here, which I've called soul searching, which I think if you guys have started a business, you've probably done this where you've taken time to decide like, hey, what am I doing? What do I want to do? And like, what is the purpose behind what I'm doing? For some, that is just to make money. For others, it can be a bit more than that. And I would say a lot of the successful brands, if we're talking about businesses that are branded, meaning they have more of a identity connected to their image, a lot of that comes down to how they thought about what they want for their business, what they want it to be, and they took the time to build that. So that is step one in the evolution of kind of how I've thought about going what I've done. I guess it helps if I talk about my own. So I was a guy in parkour and I wanted cool parkour clothes. And I felt like all the parkour clothes at the time when I started Hops were leaning more towards just like logos on shirts, fashion, but not things that had to do with parkour. And I wanted stuff that had parkour like really built into the designs and catering to the culture and brands that were like really doing stuff for the sport. So that was my what does it mean type thing. And to kind of sum up why this is important, we use the example of good old my wonderful drawing here with lots of glare. In Nightmare Before Christmas, I think it's a wonderful example of doing this great and doing it poorly. To me, it's like the moral of the story is that if you spend your time trying to do something that it's not you, then it probably isn't going to go that great. So like Jack was doing a wonderful time with Halloween, obviously, and we all know the story. He tried to do Christmas, disaster. And that's kind of my point here with at least how I've gone about things is that I really focus on what I can do and what will help at what I feel I am best fit to do. So that's just starting here, but I will make some of the points I have for the capitalistic perspective starting now. They're all in green, so can you see this? All right, do my best. People will pay more without improving pretty much anything if you just get your what does it mean, your branding right. And my example here is like Supreme, because I mean, we could talk about their clothing, but really they sold a brick, which everyone knows a brick is cheap, and they sold it for like thousands of dollars. Maybe I should Google it beforehand, but I know it's thousand at least dollars they sold a brick for. So clearly it didn't have to do with the quality, more so the identity behind buying something from Supreme. So that is my first step. And the next step is going to what I'm calling trading. And the word of this one is, how can I help? And this is a leading question that I use in my business all the time. And it's, what can I do to make this not just what I'm saying, but really what I'm doing? And that includes things like just a bunch of examples are like services, donations, research and development for the sport or your product, collaborations and sponsorship. Those are like very familiar ones in at least in our sport, parkour. And they're, to me at least, very important because, back to Mr. Capitalism, people will pay more if you do this right, and it's proven here. And I think that's something we have probably all experienced at some point where we have bought things from a business specifically because they contribute to something that we care about and want to see more of that. So we give our money to them versus a competitor that may not be doing that. And that's fine and swell. But the last thing I have to say is the giant last thing. I don't know if you guys can read this, but it says, of course you'd think so, which is the final sort of issue problem to face in a business. And that is that no matter how much you do these, won't matter if no one believes you because there's no proof of it. And that is probably the number one thing I think that really makes a difference for what I'm going to point to next, which is what this whole thing is really about. I'm going to continue kind of to circle back to it, but I wanted you guys to understand, I wanted to explain sort of my thought process behind what I'm doing before saying the basic answer to the question I've presented, which is how have I gotten, how's my whole time thing just making shirts? And that is that the answer, I think, really lies in, almost dropped that. I think the answer for how I've been able to do that is because I sell t-shirts for $60. And that is enough because I've gone through this and I've quantified and figured out what I need to do to be able to survive and be able to support this and this so that this is real and so that people want to buy stuff regardless of that it is Like, I know that my shirts are more expensive than a lot of others, but people will buy them because of what it represents here, because I do these things here, and because, at least from what I've heard, I may be biased because I am the one running it, as I'm kind of pointing out with this, like, no one cares. I put, of course you think so, and no one cares what you say, because of course I think that my business is great, because I'm very biased in that sense, because I've made it. But from what I know and from what I've heard, and I believe is hopefully true, is that other people say that way more often than I do, and that is why I've been able to continue to sell things at a higher price, which has made it so I can actually live and survive. And so that brings me to the very beginning, back at this, which I did not show you guys. I have this glare ball on my screen, but what it says is capitalism or collectivism. The math doesn't really change. All that changes is how you go about it. So what your goal is at the end of the day, whether your goal is wealth accumulation or if your goal is to have an impact and benefit on society and like more distributed wealth, including that. So the math doesn't change, just that. And from my experience and understanding, kind of how physical products work, is that, at least from what I've seen and experienced, is that most of the time you can increase the quality of a product at a much larger rate per like unit of price added in your cost. Then I'm going to try to rephrase that. From my experience, usually with physical products, you can make the quality a lot better without increasing the cost a lot more. And so that is a major factor. I always try to make high quality things. So that's, again, how I've done it. And I think that is a big reason why this has all worked. It's because my business stands for something. I actively do things like donations and sponsorships and things of that sort. I believe the court of public opinion has decided that they like what I do. So that is pretty much wrapping up what I have to say. And I guess to sum it up very neatly and nicely into just a couple words, a lot of the time, I think people are not charging enough. And I did that at first, and it didn't work. I made shirts that weren't great quality because I was trying to keep them cheap, and no one won in that scenario. And then I made a change to charge more, and it's made it so I can do more for others, and so that I am able to continue focusing what I'm doing, because it makes me enough to get by. So at least as far as everything I have on my board, that is done. I now would like to know if anyone has any questions or things they want to ask me. So I'm gonna put this down. Ugh.
Thanks, Tyler. We'll give it just a couple of minutes for any questions, and then we'll move on just to respect the timing of all of our speakers for the day.
Yep. How are we doing on time?
You're great. You guys should know, I'll send you little private messages while you're talking if you want to keep an eye on chat to help you with timing, but you are on time.
Sweet. Glad.
I got a question for you, Tyler.
What's up, Jimmy?
I stepped away for a moment, so apologies if you already said this. So you took over manufacturing the clothing at my parkour gyms.
Yeah.
And it has been sweet. A question, I guess this is more like a prompt for you rather than a question, but before I did that at my gyms, I was hesitant because I was scared that like using you as a service would mean that my clothes would have to cost like $80, if I had a margin at my parkour gym.
Yeah.
But that ended up not being the case, and everything got better in a way that I like didn't anticipate. How can you like help parkour gyms here is my question.
Yeah. Well, one thing that a lot of business owners don't know is, especially if you're ordering from a big box shop, as I'll say, like Rush Order Inc. um, they have a lot of, I mean, they're doing a lot of things. So perhaps there's a level of it that is justified in it, where I am a very small operation, but they charge a pretty substantial amount, from my experience, for what they're delivering on. And that is like, it works for them because they're like a big business and such, and they have a lot of marketing. But there is a lot of markup, again, from my own experience. And I'm trying to make it so that in the parkour community, like I've done the numbers. I'm like, yep, if I can produce things at the rate that I'm producing them at, and it is sustainable and good for the community and business. And honestly, I'm just not trying to make egregious profit. So when I'm working with businesses, I have direct contacts with manufacturers that I get like the quiet rate, one you're not allowed to share, and that most businesses really take advantage of that lack of knowledge and charge a lot more. And I'll admit I charge some more because that is how business works. But generally, my focus is to make it so that our community can prosper and thrive while I'm also able to, survive and do better. So I'm able to get a lot of what you may be already getting if you are a business owner, but at a better price. And I am offering this exclusively like to the parkour community. So that is kind of how that is possible. Yeah. That answer your question, Jimmy?
Yeah, it does. And once we launched you in our gym, you were I was sort of mad that your quality of clothing was like so much better than what I was getting at Rush Order Tees. It just like showed me, because at the time I had less experience in like the apparel side of things. And it just showed me like that it's all marketing at the end of the day on their side too, like the quiet pricing and the, like putting certain products on a pedestal, when in reality, like they can make something just as good for like a half a penny more. And so you showing me that in my gyms and launching it in the gyms, and then that trickling out to the parents and the kids actually wearing the t-shirts, because kids are really sensitive to like what the clothes actually feel like, was really cool. So anyway, thank you for teaching me that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. One thing we can totally do is if you come up with questions for any speaker, just throw it in the group chat. And then it'll be something that we can, I can try to keep track of. And if we have time at the end, we can maybe circle back to the parking lot of questions if we do accumulate any. All right, awesome. Let me, there we go, figure out how to unpin you. And then I think we're going to pin me instead. I believe I'm next. And then I just made a couple of people, Alan, Corey, and Blake. You guys are all co-hosts now, so if you don't mind, keep an eye on admin, admitting people as they come in late. That would be awesome. Okay, time for me to jump into my little bit here. Guys, I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint, and then I'm basically going to have my Zoom screen over here on the other side to try to keep an eye on the chat. So if occasionally my head turns away from you all, it's not because I care, or it is not because I care. No, it's not because I don't care. It is because I have two screens. All right. Let me just kickstart this. And I honestly don't know. Give me just a second, guys. I don't know how to make the chat show up while I'm also screen sharing, which is quite annoying. Give me just a moment while I figure this out. There you go. Pop out the chat. That's what I needed. Okay, I think I got it, everybody. All right, let me get right into it. Start my timer. All right, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about leadership and management, something that I'm pretty passionate about. I just want to make sure, is it showing the PowerPoint on your end? Give me a thumbs up or a yes or a no in the chat real quick. Showing my notes as well. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. I think I just need to do a more proper job of sharing it. Yeah. Sorry, guys, I don't know why we're having all kinds of these issues from the beginning. That's okay. I don't care that you see my notes. As long as you can see it clearly, that's all that matters. So we're going to go through these slides here. It actually helps to kind of review some of them. So the mindset of leadership is what we're talking about here today. And I'm going to need some participation in the chat. Sometimes I'll be asking for some thoughts. I just need you guys to real quick, just snap in the chat room. So open up the chat if you don't have it already. Fingers on the keyboard. Let's try to keep this fun and interactive as much as possible. So I'm going to start off with challenging your mindset a little bit and asking you this question. When I show you this image of you're sitting in an airplane, you're about to be on your flight, you're in your seat, you have 2 empty seats next to you, and you're staring down the lane, watching passengers walk up, looking left to right. Tell me what you're thinking. What are your internal thoughts with these 2 empty seats next to you while people are boarding the plane and looking for their seats? Throw it in the chat for me, and let's see what we can get. We got a please don't sit next to me. God, please don't sit next to me. That one's more like a prayer. Why do I still have my phone in airplane mode? It's definitely a good one. Am I going to get 3 seats to myself? Yes. Okay, cool. Jimmy's just pure productivity. Okay, good. So we got a good mix of humor, which is what I expected, but also some of that other thing that I expected, which is, gosh, yes, please be skinny. I hate to say that that probably enters some thoughts. Yeah, we have a lot of these sort of judgmental thoughts, right? I totally agree. Okay, let's keep that stuff in mind, and I'm going to take you to the next one here. You guys are driving down the highway, you're in a busy traffic, and some jerk in a pickup truck or something cuts you off in the highway and makes you jam on your brakes, didn't use their blinker, all your pet peeves all in one. What are some of the thoughts and feelings, maybe even actions or gestures that we are going to be tempted, or in some case we totally do? What traps do we fall into? We tailgate them, thumbs down. You trying to kill me, bro? Seth wonders if they did that on purpose. We're questioning this person's intention entirely. A disappointing finger wag. That's the spirit. Frustration. Yeah. What caused you to do this? Okay, cool. So we have some of these thoughts. A lot of us, and not everybody, especially now that we're being introspective, we might be checking on ourselves, but a lot of us are going to be tempted to move in the direction of like, what the F, what's wrong with you? We get mad, maybe we throw a finger up, we tailgate, we get frustrated. These are pretty normal human behaviors, so you don't have to feel too bad about it. We'll circle back to these examples in just a minute, and I promise it eventually has to do with management and leadership. So this next slide I'm going to show you is something from a book. Books. There's a few books written by the Arbinger Institute. They're some of my favorite books. This one's called The Outward Mindset. The outward mindset is in comparison to the inward mindset. And I'll do a quick review of this, but I think you guys are going to understand it generally. And basically what it's saying is when I have an inward mindset, I'm focusing on the results, the objectives, the behaviors, things that are relevant and important to me. And what that does by default is it turns everybody else around us into objects, not people, but objects, which means we use them as vehicles. They're obstacles that we blame that are in our way, and they kind of become irrelevancies that we just feel like we have the power to completely ignore if we want to. And these scenarios kind of illustrate that. If I'm sitting in the row and my results, my objectives are that I have a comfortable flight, that I have some open seats next to me, then every person walking down that aisle becomes an obstacle to that particular objective of mine. And so I'm hoping and praying and judging, and I get in that sort of attitude that involves absolutely no consideration to their needs whatsoever. God forbid that person's holding a baby, and we worry about that problem happening. Whereas if we were in an outward mindset where we focus on larger results, we take the behaviors and objectives and needs and challenges of other people into account, it's a completely different way to look at things, because someone in a perfect outward mindset may very well say, oh, I hope someone with a baby sits next to me because I think I can be the most patient and kind person on this flight. And therefore, if the baby and their parent sits next to me, they'll have the best flight possible. And that's seeing the objectives, needs, challenges of other people, including it into your own behaviors and adjusting your mindset. And so the reason that that's really powerful is the inward mindset almost inevitably becomes a very frustrating point of view. And we'll go to that driving slideshow as an example. In that moment, you know, we probably spend the next 10 minutes, if we get frustrated at another car on the road, kind of cooking inside, feeling unpleasant, higher blood pressure, higher heart rate. And that's a result of that. Meanwhile, an outward mindset helps us kind of connect with other people, feel a part of a community, and have a larger sense of joy. And so an outward mindset is just a more powerful tool. There's another concept that I want to bring up that's from a different book, but I think it's very much the same type of thing, and we're going to merge these together as we bring it into our management skills, is the see-do-get cycle. So the see-do-get cycle comes from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. All the books that I'm referencing will be on the end slide here, guys, so don't worry too much. And the see-do-get cycle basically says that the way I see people, which is sort of my paradigm about them, dictates my behavior towards them. In other words, what I do. And then that it gives me the results. It gets me what I get regarding that person. And then what I get feeds what I see about that person. And on this cycle goes forever. Someone yelled stop, but I'm assuming it wasn't for me. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So the see-do-get cycle, it teaches us that the way we see people feeds what we do, and what we do feeds what we get, and what we get feeds how we see that person. And you can imagine how that becomes either a viciously positive or a viciously negative cycle. And that inward-outward mindset is kind of aligned with that. So I'm going to jump now before we run out of too much time and give you one more scenario, but we have to walk through this a little bit. Some of you may be able to relate to this, some of you may not, but we're going to work it anyway. If you've been a parent, this will be all too real. If you haven't been a parent, work with me. I think you'll be able to relate to it just fine. I want you to imagine, let's just say we're all a father figure and we're laying in bed exhausted. Baby's in another room. The mother figure is laying next to you, also exhausted, or the other parent. And both of you have not had sleep in many days. You're completely exhausted and you don't know what to do. Then the baby starts crying. And you're lying awake, and you think that your partner lying there in bed is also awake, but they're currently laying there with their eyes closed. Now, what do we do? Well, we have a choice, right? We can get up and just go take care of the baby, but we're also kind of hoping inside that maybe the other person will, because we're exhausted and we've done it a bunch. And so we have this inner cycle a little bit, okay? This happens all the time. And this feeds into this process of what's called self-betrayal, which is also a concept that comes from one of those Arbinger books, but this is their first one, called Leadership and Self-Deception. So what this concept basically teaches us, and I'll show you a diagram in a minute, is if I feel that I should get up and serve the baby, then I'm going to go do that. And I'm going to go do what I have to do that fulfills the responsibilities and values that I agreed to. But if I don't, then I betray that thought. It leads me down this very interesting and dark path that can lead to something called self-betrayal. Self-betrayal is when I say to myself, okay, I think that I don't deserve to do this. I think that I've done my part. I think that I'm a little bit of a victim in the situation, and I'm going to start to look for blame in other people as to why I'm in this situation. And so instead of laying there waiting for my partner to wake up because I'm the last person who went and got the baby, I'm going to think, man, they are so lazy sometimes. I get so frustrated that they don't do this. Almost to the point, and see if you can hear me on this, almost to the point that if that person does wake up and does what you expected them to do, you're almost disappointed. You're almost like, oh, I actually was in the process of really justifying why I was right about that. There are a lot of scenarios. Maybe it's if you have a spouse at home who doesn't do chores and you're just expecting that chore to not be done, then you come home and it is done. And you're a little happy that it's done, but you're also a little bit like, oh, I was ready to feel justified that didn't happen. These are all personal examples. We're about to shift them to work examples. And so I'm going to bring you this diagram to kind of give you a sense of that. It looks a little bit like this. Here we have a sense, we'll make it professional now. I want to do my best to help the company and the people in it achieve results. And you can try to honor that choice as an employee based on your agreement to work at that company. But sometimes we betray it. And when we betray that, we start to see ourselves. So this is from the employee perspective as maybe a victim. I'm super hardworking. I'm a fair person. I'm a good worker. And all these things are happening to me that aren't fair. All my other coworkers are not doing their job, and so why would I work hard to achieve the results if my coworkers are not doing it? And so when you allow yourself into that choice, it changes your view of other people. You start to see your coworkers in a way that justifies your own behavior. Well, they're lazy, they're inconsiderate, they don't, my manager doesn't know what's going on, and so I don't really need to do what I need to do that I agreed to originally. And so we have the sense, we can honor it, or we can betray it. And when we betray it, it takes us down this darker path. This is a very short version of this concept, but I want to illustrate this and take it back to, if we turn this into the mom and dad scenario, if my sense is I should get up and take care of the baby, and then I choose to lay there and wait for my spouse to take care of it instead of doing anything for me, if you guys would help me in the chat, fill me in, how am I going to start to see myself in that scenario? Go with me on this narrative. If I say I'm going to lay here and wait for my spouse to wake up and take care of the baby, how am I seeing myself in that situation? What am I justifying? Throw it in the chat. What am I seeing myself as a parent in that scenario? A victim is a really good answer. I like that. I'm a victim. I am the one exhausted. I'm tired. Yep, maybe it goes the other way. I'm a little bit of a leech on my partner's energy. I've got some negative self-talk that's going on, but I'm justifying my actions by saying I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I don't know why I have to be the one to do this every time. Exactly. I've already done it a bunch of times. And then a victim always doing the hard work, unfairly treated. Great answers. Let's change it now. Now, how am I seeing my partner? As I start to make those choices and I define myself as a victim and the hardworking one, I have to get up early. Great answer, Jessica. I'm the one who has some needs here. My needs are first. How does that make me, by default now, how does that shape the character of my partner laying next to me in bed? What does it turn them into? Just by default, if I'm the hardworking one, I'm the one who's receiving injustice. They're lazy. They don't care as much as I do. Blah, 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 blah. Exactly. Less than. They are the one who get to sleep in. Ungrateful. Yeah, these are all great answers. Exactly right. So in the little bit of time I have left, guys, this isn't an unproven narrative. This parenting example it couldn't be more true. There is so much of a resentment issue between parents in a parenting stage because of that state of exhaustion. It makes it easier to betray ourselves when we're in those states and we fall into those choices, and resentment in this stage of life is very, very hard for these people. But what makes this relevant, and how I want to land this for you guys, is what makes this relevant is in the workplace, we do this to our employees all the time. We start to see bad performance. So let's go back to our outward mindset. If we're outward mindset and we see the needs, objectives, challenges, and everything else of the people on our team, our actions are always going to be leading us to what's going to help serve them, especially if these people are the ones who make our business happen. If we're in this see-do-get cycle, if we see our people in the way that we saw our partner in that scenario, lazy, they don't work hard, they don't care about the company, blah, 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 which may be narratives we've created to justify our opinion if we've betrayed ourselves. That we see them that way, our behavior is going to reflect that. We're going to treat them a certain way. And because we're treating them a certain way, we may be encouraging certain results. And maybe we're even glad to see those results because it justifies the way we're seeing them. It proves us right, and it continues that cycle. Now, just for a moment, I want to say this doesn't mean every employee is always perfect. Sometimes seeing the best in people means recognizing that this isn't the place for them to work, or this isn't the right thing for them to do. I want to be clear about that. But we always want to start with our own mindset first and challenge ourselves to say, are we creating this attitude and mindset? Are we the one creating this narrative and guiding their behavior? Or at least, are we trying our best to go the other way? Are we trying our best to guide them the right direction with our own mindset? So we want to be in the see, do, get cycle in a positive way for our people. We want to be in an outward mindset, and we want to honor our choices about how we treat our people to the best of our ability in order to not fall into the cycle. So to review, we want to see people as people to the very best of our ability. We want to honor the senses that we have and keep an outward mindset towards our people. And that just, in a sentence, means seeing the best in others. If we assume the best in the people walking down the aisle in the airplane, if we assume the best in the people on the road around us and consider what needs they may have, whether they're tired or why they're switching lanes, being humble and asking more questions before judging. And if we actually honor our choices and don't get into a habit of sort of betraying ourselves, making ourselves the victim and making the other person the villain, then we don't create as many negative things in the behaviors of our staff as we think. So the two questions I'm going to challenge you guys with ending this is, who do you regularly betray yourself over? Are there people in your life that this cycle happens with a lot? Could be work, could be outside of it. That's up to you. But do you betray your choices and make yourself the martyr and them the villain, maybe when you shouldn't? And what can you do to improve and break that cycle? Where in the outward mindset or in the see-do cycle can you break that? It's something I'd love to talk to you guys more outside of this meeting. We only have 15 minutes and my 15 minutes are up. So I wanted to share this concept with you just enough to challenge a little bit of your attitudes about your own leadership and learning. If you want to explore more, I recommend those two books. Well, there's 3 or 4 actually, but The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And there's 3 series of books from the Arbiter Institute: Leadership and Self-Deception, The Outward Mindset, and The Anatomy of Peace. All 3 amazing books that will challenge your mindset and hopefully help you guys improve your leadership skills by considering more. But reach out to me outside of this meeting. I could talk for hours on this topic. And I really appreciate you guys listening to me through that little narrative. And that's it. Questions you guys can throw in the chat, and we will get ready for our next speaker, which is going to be Colin. You can get yourself taken care of and ready whenever you like.
Morning, guys. Hopefully everyone can hear me. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
So I wonder, we don't.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about basically the standards that govern parkour parks in America, the different approaches that people have taken to classifying what a space built for parkour is, and where that can go in the future. Just briefly about me, for anyone who doesn't know, I have been around for a while. I started working at Parkour Visions back in 2010 when there was still a gym associated with it, and built a lot of that gym. And then over time, that kind of indoor design led itself to some early outdoor projects. So that second picture there is the second parkour park in the US. It was in Boise, Idaho, that we got a chance to work on with a landscape architecture firm. Since then, done a lot more across the US and Canada. I currently am a playground designer in Colorado, work a lot more in the landscape architecture field, but still doing parkour park design. And still really interested in kind of the regulatory environment for this type of building. So how do you describe a public structure for parkour? And these are sort of the 4 options that I've gone through and and have explored for various reasons. So the first option is it's parkour park, and I don't know anything more about it. And that's really like the first few projects that I undertook. It's like, well, we don't have anything to call this other than what it is. So like, please work with us. And that has worked. It also creates a number of problems, which I'll get into. You can also call it a playground, which I would not recommend. You can say, kind of downplay the parkour aspect of it and say, oh, this is just art or this is street furniture. And then finally, what I've kind of discovered most recently is calling it adult outdoor exercise equipment for parkour. So going through those one at a time. Parkour Park is its own thing. So there is no like widely accepted US standard for an outdoor parkour park. I'm not talking about private facilities, not talking about gyms, talking about something that is in a municipal space and is accessible by anyone and is not monitored or like facilitated by an expert. That doesn't mean that international standards don't exist. There is EN 16899, which is for most of the EU and a very related standard in the UK. So that's an option. You can say, well, there might not be a US standard, but we're going to build to this international standard.
Colin, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you just real quickly. I think there's a gentleman talking in your background that is a little bit distracting to you. I don't know if that's fixable or not.
Issue. And then the real downside to saying that we're not designing to a particular standard is that it makes clients really nervous because everything else in the park that they have fits into a category. And when you're coming up with something that probably doesn't exist even in the state, and you say it doesn't have a bucket that they can put it into, that makes them nervous from a liability standpoint, from a use conflict standpoint. And then regardless, whatever you're calling it, explicit signage is best. So if you're saying that you're not designing to a standard, my opinion is that you still want to put a sign on it that says this is a parkour park, it's intended for parkour, and it's not playground. So that's your next option. And there are manufacturers like Lapset, which is that top picture up there, who designed to the US playground standard. US playground standard is ASTM 1487. That's intended for ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 12. So pretty specifically for kids. A couple of other things about it. It requires an attenuating surface. So that means rubber wood chips, something like that can attenuate ball height of the highest piece of equipment you have in that area. And then not only does it have to attenuate directly under the structure, but every piece of equipment in a playground has a use zone. So imagine a buffer about 6 feet drawn around that piece of equipment. The advantage with saying that it's playground is that everybody understands what that is. And it falls neatly into the category that municipalities are used to dealing with. The downside is that the way that this standard conceptualizes the use of a playground are discrete elements in space, and the use zone separates those elements. Kid plays with one thing, they cross the use zone and they play with another thing. Parkour subverts that idea of what a playground is because we're constantly crossing negative space dynamically, which is specifically what the use zone is intended to avoid. They don't want kids dynamically flying from one object to another, which is why they do this. So I would recommend against pursuing this. Other option.
Hey, Colin, can you hear me by any chance?
Adam?
Yeah, there's a bit of background noise. I think there's someone else talking in the room with you. It makes it a little hard to hear you. I don't know if that's something you can fix or not, but
I can't hear you.
Oh.
So another option is to call it art or furniture. There's no specific standard about this, that governs everything. It's pretty freeform, right? Any age can interact with a bench. You can put it on hardscape, you can put it on grass. This is best, in my opinion, for southern interventions, right? This example up here. It's from a European company, Escafet, right? It's low. It doesn't scream like that I'm taking over a space for people or big columns. Disadvantage of this is that it's kind of difficult to communicate and sell. It requires cooperative clients, right? Because effectively you're saying, this is a bench. I'm intending it for parkour. And that's why you want me to design it. But we're not going to say that. We're going to kind of hide its intention. And that comes to the last point in that, opens the clients and potentially you up to liability because you know what it's actually for and you're sort of disguising the intended use.
I think it could just be these 15 minutes. And so,
So, final option, adult outdoor exercise equipment. And this was a little bit new to me and kind of inspired this talk. There is another ASTM standard, a lot less known, ASTM 3101, that governs, adult fitness equipment. So anything from those little jazzercise machines to an outdoor pulling bar. And the picture up top is an example of kind of what people are thinking of when they would think of adult outdoor exercise equipment at calisthenic park. This standard does not say parkour anywhere in it. However, it describes very clearly the type of use, the type of physical use that parkour does. It describes swinging, it describes climbing, it describes jumping. They're onto an object or between objects. Because of that, it has much easier use. The standard is is designed to have spaces that integrate and connect, as opposed to like creating buffer zones that separate. This is also used in the US by manufacturers of like ninja courses that specifically call out 3101. Again, Ninja Warrior, not mentioned anywhere in the standard, but it does describe that type of use. And then the other advantage is that you can explicitly say that this refers to parkour in the sun. You can call it a parkour park. You're not having to try to disguise the use. Sorry. So, a couple ways forward. I think that the status quo right now, like using 3101 is a pretty good strategy, and communicates pretty well to clients. However, my hope is that, explicitly adding words parkour, Ninja Warrior, obstacle course, to that standard would make it a little bit more ironclad, and potentially buff it a little bit. Another option would be a distinct ASTM standard. That's the widely accepted standards. Everything from light bulbs to like nuclear reactor bodies. This is a pretty lengthy process and generally requires that you have a lot of examples already that they can point to. Another option would be, well, we could standardize it ourselves, publish our own standard, which we've done a little bit. There's a sort of design guidelines. And this is not without precedent as well. Like the Climbing Wall Association has guidelines for like an outdoor climbing wall. It might fall under playground use, but they recommend like an 8-foot buffer zone around an outdoor climbing wall. And then, the other option is kind of going more towards the art and furniture aspect where you're doing things less explicitly and just trying to think a lot more about how your hardscape creates environments for playing parkour. That's the end of my slideshow. Got a few minutes left. If anybody has any questions about this.
So it looks like they want to be organized around lines. Yeah, these are so thematic.
I've got a question.
Yeah, I think it could just be lines. That's great. I mean, occasionally, like if somebody asks.
So I'm curious,
Well,
you mentioned this
good to see
ASTM
everybody.
standard, and is there any
What's that, Adam?
equivalent to something
I
like that?
can't hear you. If you're
Yeah,
talking.
I think you're, check the chat.
Okay, I'll
So anyway.
I'm trying to communicate. There we go, Colin.
Yeah, sorry, Adam. I'm in the office and there's another meeting going on.
Okay,
I know.
yeah,
It's
that's
loud.
fine.
Yeah.
Who was that? Was that Nick who had a question?
Yeah, I'll type it in the chat so Colin can see it.
Yep.
Intro where it's like 2 or 4 pages, it says like what we offer, what we can offer. And I'm really engaging. Oh wow, this is working with it.
Equivalent standard.
I want to send a little more an attachment that's like easy for an LA to look at. Be like, yep, these are my people. Yeah, services. Because like our website does that kind of.
Okay, so a couple of questions here.
Really.
And I'm really sorry, guys. It's super loud in here. I can barely hear myself talk. I'm gonna So Seth asked, what's the first step in talking to cities? I think like what the projects that I've seen that are successful, you know, you can take it two different ways. Like you can directly approach the parks department, and they will often have like community outreach sessions. One thing that I've noticed is that like Denver, as an example, in Colorado, in their kind of master plan for alternative sports that includes skateboarding and things like that, they have included parkour as like something that they want to add to their parks. And so like I'm working on a project now with a landscape architect to build something in Denver, and they were able to go to that master plan, and then when they talk to the city, say, hey, this is something that you said that you want. So you know, building up kind of a commitment to the idea of adding parkour, even if it's doesn't have a direct project attached to it, definitely helps build that momentum for it. A couple people asked about indoor standards. There is not, to my knowledge, like an indoor standard for parkour rinks.
That's for everyone. And I think that we gave some that's too. I think I opted because
Mark talks about wood playgrounds.
Whatever, so we can send like.
Guido asked about standard. Are you familiar with standards in Europe?
So I had it once in last year's. Well, this is just my projection this year.
Sorry, I'm getting kind of lost on these.
Year, checking out the actuals. This is what I'm budgeting this year. So I can build it. Go. You want to see Joel's last year?
Since we're any tips for approaching conservative towns proposition? Yeah, I mean, I think like kind of what I was trying to get at is that like, if you can, the more you can couch the idea of a structure for parkour in language they're familiar with, like this is adult exercise equipment, just like that, you know, exercise pad that you built, that's going to help a lot. You know, precedents from other towns that have built it, especially in the US, especially near them, it's very helpful. And then finally, like showing that there is a local community that will use it seems to be really helpful.
Yeah, I think we can probably get 25 mediators.
All right, guys.
I think that's time for me.
He beat me to it. Yeah, yep. I think we're going to call it there. So thank you very much, Colin. You guys can, again, keep sending messages in the chat. I'm pretty sure either the AI note-taking or the actual recording will save all the chat questions, so they will be referenceable later when we send it back out. Colin is obviously a great resource, so feel free, you guys, to contact Colin outside of this if a project like this enters your way. I would like to bring Charles Moreland onto the stage as our next speaker.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Charles. My wife and I are the owners of the Rochester Parkour Gym here in Rochester, New York. We've been here since 2011. So we're coming up on 14 years of business next February, which is pretty cool. I will preface this talk and this discussion. Well, first, let me make sure I can share my screen and get that all functioning. No, I do not want to leave the meeting. I just want to close the chat box real quick. Share this one. Perfect. Does that work for everybody?
Looking good.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to preface this discussion and first say, when I pitched this idea, I think the words that Adam said, can you do all that in 15 minutes? And I truthfully said no. And the reason why is because this discussion is going to cover a lot of different things, or there's going to be a lot of different questions that could be tangents of this whole topic. How do you go about like conceptualizing a build. How do you know how to make it sturdy? How do you know how to source materials? All these things. I can't cover all of that in 15 minutes. So instead, what I'm going to help you process is show you how I go about the whole system of formulating an idea of what new object I want to build for our gym or for any other project it might happen to be, how I go about the process of conceptualizing it, how I then go about the process of blueprinting it, and then framing and even creating cut lists and a plan for the actual build process, and doing that all digitally without having to go about what I used to do, which is you just kind of have an idea in mind, you kind of estimate what materials you're going to need, and then you go buy them, and then inevitably you're going to be in the process of building this thing and realize, oh my God, I don't have enough 2x4s, or I don't have enough plywood, or how did I end up with an extra sheet, or how do I not have enough sheets? This is essentially what I'm going to cover in this discussion. And so basically, we're going to be using a free tool today. It's called SketchUp. I won't be able to show you how to use SketchUp. If it's something that you're interested in, I'd be more than happy to meet with you, walk you through it, help you understand all little things and nuances about it. Basically, it's CAD-like. It is a very simple free tool that you can use a Google account, for example, or just make a new one to log into. It's all based on the web, and it allows you to basically just like take shapes and draw them in 3-dimensional space. And so whenever I'm starting on a new project, I'm always going to come in onto a blank sheet, and I'm going to make 3 rectangles like this. And I'm going to create 1 rectangle of space that I'm going to call my concept space. That's where I'm going to draw things. I'm going to play around with different objects, different shapes, different things. None of these objects that I have here are like there's no frame underneath them. It's quite literally I just took a rectangle and then I pushed it up. I was like, oh cool, now I have a cube. How fantastic. Wouldn't it be great to jump on a cube and do different things with the cube or anything else? These 3 objects are objects that we are going to be building in the next 2 weeks to sell for Christmas. And we're going to be selling them off to one of our, like, whoever of our gym members are there that are interested in buying their own thing. We did this last year. It was a massive success. Like, hey, we're going to do this again. I'm going to build a simple vault box for somebody. I'll have a cube design, and I've also got this little L. These are all small shapes. Mostly these are like parents are interested in putting stuff like this in their basement for their kids that come to class. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be great if Johnny had this cool thing that he can practice his vaults on when he's running around in the basement. And this is kind of where I'll go about the process of ideating all of those. When you're here, you'll want to make sure you're planning around any sort of restrictions you might have. Like, I need these to fit through a door, and I can't have these objects be taller than 36 inches or wider than 36 inches on any frame. And so all of these objects are 30. Once I have them created though, and I understand like what I'm going to be doing with them, I'll just copy them. And then I'm going to move over to my other plane over here. This is my framing plane. That's where I actually go about the process of blueprinting these things and turning them into 3-dimensional objects. It's like, I just take this, it's like, oh, I copy and pasted it. It's over this way. Now I have it duplicated. And I actually go in here and say, oh, how am I actually going to go about the process of framing this thing in a way that I can follow along, know how to make these cuts, and emulate objects or materials that I have access to. So for instance, this is a 2x8, for example. It's a 2x8 that I can get from a lumber yard, a lumber store, and I'm going to be building this 2-foot high L-shaped box out of 2x8 lumber. And that's where I go about the process. Like, oh, okay, I've got this. How did I make this object? I quite literally just made a rectangle, and I made it 1.5. Actually, that's not right. It's 7.25 inches by 96 inches. And like, oh, cool. There's my frame. This is actually not, because I didn't do this correctly, but that's okay. I can do that. And And I can then, this is gonna break everything, but like, cool. I've got that object. It's not what it's on the wrong side, but you know, that's how I made this. And then I can basically just like copy and I can paste it and I can manipulate it and move it around however I want to in order to actually go about the process of piecing this thing together. And you can cut it, you can reshape it, length it any way that you wish. And like I said, you go about the process of creating the frame. How do you go about framing it? I can't teach you that in 15 minutes. If it's something that you're interested in, I would be happy to show you. But like, cool. So I've got this one all set up. This, I'm pretty satisfied with this. I know where I'm going to be using my connections. I know how I'm going to be putting this together, and you can see the mirror image of it right here. Again, this one's empty. It doesn't have anything around it. This is what the skeleton essentially is going to be for that one. I've got another box over this way. This is my square box that we're going to be designing and building. It's got a wall frame on the top, and then it's just got four walls on the bottom that will get screwed into each other. And that is now a ready object for plywood. And then I've got one more. I've got our vault box. This actually has two different angles on it. So I've got a 15-degree side. I've got a 30-degree side on this. And again, you go about the process of creating the design, creating the frame the way that you want to. And there's the reference object that I have there. Once you're done with that, you're like, okay, I've got my frame. Now we have to go about the process of actually sheeting it. You're going to copy it and you're going to move it over to the other side. And okay, cool. So now I've got my frame, and then I actually go with the process of taking a blank sheet of plywood. Let's take a blank sheet of plywood right here and say that it's 96 inches by 48 inches, because that's what a panel is. I'm going to make that a group real fast, and then I'm going to edit the group, and I'm going to move it up to be 75 inches because that's what a panel is. And so this is my blank sheet of plywood. If I were to go to a hardware store and buy plywood, this is now my plywood piece, and I can move it and manipulate it around however you want. I can keep it right there as a reference, and I can always just copy and paste it. And then I can quite literally just come in and say, okay, I need this sheet to, I'm gonna do the, let's go this direction first so that I can then move this right here. I say, okay, I need this panel to be all the way up to the top of this. And then I need the side to come in, and I already have the tool active. So we can, this is hard to do on a time frame. And there, okay, so now I have a panel that's connected to one side. And so that's how I do this. And I can quite literally take any of these panels that I already have here, and I can move them out. And you can see that this is the frame that I have underneath. I've already got it there. I've got all of these pieces that are here. They are a part of the whole unit that is the object that I'm designing. And I can go into it and say, okay, do all of these connection points make sense? Do they all fit together perfectly? Are there any gaps that I should be worried about, or anything else of the sort? And then once I'm done with that, I actually have this on the same sheet here. I basically just create like little versions of this. And I'll just like put a couple panels here, which is essentially what I did right over this way. And the reason why these are all colored is because when I take this object, I'm going to color this entire thing. Connect all of you. And I will brush it a color. And I'll make sure that all of these things are the same color. And then I quite literally just copy and paste it, and I deconstruct it on top of these panels that I'm theoretically going to buy. And what I can do from here is make sure that as I deconstruct it, I'm basically making sure I'm accounting for every cut and every piece that's in this blueprint, that's in this build. And then I'm placing it on a theoretical piece of plywood right here that I'm going to buy. And this is now turning into my cut plan. And I say, okay, out of this full sheet of plywood that is 4 feet by 8 feet, I can get in and I can make sure that I'm accomplishing this panel from my square build, this panel from my square build. Actually, this is my L shape. But like I satisfy this panel, and this panel, and also one from a different project that I'm a different build that I'm going to be using. This otherwise would have been waste here. And I can plan that out ahead of time, know that it exists, and know how much waste I'm going to be left over with after I'm done doing this. And by having this plan ahead of time, you're essentially creating this entire cut list. You're creating a shop list and buy list where I can see, oh, when I'm going to go to the hardware store and I'm going to buy all these materials, I need 5 sheets of plywood. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 5 sheets of plywood in a perfect world to do this. I'll probably buy 6 because if I don't end up using it, then I'll use it for a different project later. Also, I make mistakes even after I create these blueprints. And then also you can plan out what cuts you're going to do on your 2x4s or your 2x8s or whatever it happens to be. And again, you can already plan out how many of these objects, how many materials do you need to buy in order to satisfy the requirements of your project. And then you can go in and you can estimate and quite literally look at how much does this material cost? What's the tax going to be on it? And you will already know what your project cost is going to be and have a cut list available for it. So as I said, that is the blueprinting process. Is this the perfect process? No. But it's a process that we use that I've been using for probably about 6 or 7 years at this point. And it's really helped shape how we go about streamlining build projects. They don't just become wildly maybe the term is reckless with the way that you go about buying stuff. It makes it a lot less panicky when you're building stuff and being like, how did I mess this up? How did I mess up this cut? How did I not buy enough material? Now I have to go back and waste more time in order to get more material, whatever it happens to be. This is how you go about the process of kind of streamlining all of it, making it work for you, and understanding whether or not you're going to stay on budget with it. As I said before, I won't be able to teach you how to use this tool. I won't be able to teach you how to make these things sturdy or know whether or not your framing is going to make sense or anything else like that. I won't be able to teach you how to source materials. But I do have a little bit of extra time for questions, and I will look at them now once I can figure out how to get chat up. And there we go. Thank you, Adam, for the 1-minute warning. Okay. The cube is asymmetrical. Do you somehow differentiate which end is up once it's complete? Yes, the one, in order to, like, once I have it complete, you are always able to go back into, this chat is way too big. You are always able to go back and say, okay, this is my frame. This is where I'm going for. You can measure and say, how tall is this? This is 28.75, 28 3/4. And then you can also check and see whether, like, what the length of it is. It's 41 inches long. And you'll be able to, like, sometimes this is something that this is still in process because I haven't actually finished what we're doing for our build project in 2 weeks. But essentially what I'll do is, like, where I have these labels, I will quite literally label them, or sometimes even color code all of my lengths to know whether or not like where they fit based on the reference frame. I'll know, like, oh, all of these markers that are these studs that are 22 1/4 inches, those might all be a shade of green. And it's easy for me to be able to label them, categorize them, and structure the build and the cut in that way.
Hey, Charles.
And we plan out. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I think I didn't phrase my question well. I mean, if you skin all 6 sides of the box in real life, how do you know which side has that upward support frame? Once it's got plywood on all the sides.
Yes. So you mean when I'm over here how do I know which one of this how do I know this panel is the top panel?
Yeah, is there a bottom on it or is there no bottom on it?
I'm not going to put a bottom on this one.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I will do bottoms. We've got a square box in the gym that can go any orientation, and we do have we've got this top wall on the top. We've got it on the bottom, and it doesn't matter the orientation because it's cheated on all sides. But for this particular one, I don't think I need to do that for our parent customers. They're probably just going to have it almost like a furniture piece. And so I was like, I'll just put it like this, and that's how I'll go about doing that. So
got it. Okay, cool. Thank you
perfect.
for that.
Then, okay, let's see. Laying it out on plywood, sheets, genius. That might be overstating it, but cool. Thank you. Let's see. This is awesome, Charles. Very cool. See the pull of detail. Fantastic. You actually need 7 sheets because you need another when you followed your blueprint wrong, and another when you did it wrong again and realized you did it right the first time but already ruined the piece. How many Devin's one of our old employees, he lived through the glory days of not having this process out. So yeah, absolutely. And that's my time. So yes, thank you so much, everybody. If you have any questions, by all means, you can reach out to me directly. I will answer you in chat while people are presenting other things. And if you want to ask me any questions, then you can find me on Facebook, or you can send us an email. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Charles. Yep, there's some comments that are unanswered, either previous speakers or before, in which case speakers, feel free to go back on the chat. I think you can reply just to each one and give them some good answers, and or feel free to reach out to these people separately as well. All right, guys, let's keep things moving. And I am going to bring Vinny in as our next speaker.
Hello, hello. Excellent. Let me get this going. Share. That guy. There we go. And then slideshow. Sweet. Hello, everyone. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. My name is Vinny. I am a previous parkour practitioner and now agent. I'll get into that in a bit, but my presentation is on the best practices for marketing yourself as a parkour athlete or business. Here's why I'm here to speak. Previously trained parkour for 9 years. I helped open a couple of gyms. I ran and owned a couple of parkour gyms for 7 of those years. And then I left that space to now work in the digital content agency world. I'm currently the VP of talent at Evolve Talent Agency. We work with over 90 clients across various platforms and categories. We started as a gaming agency, and now we're branching out into athletics, music, fashion, other categories. We work across Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all the social media platforms. This year, I've personally closed over 150 sponsorship deals worth over 2 million, which is kind of why I'm here to bridge the gap between potentially getting some sponsors into parkour and how to do so, which was what I've learned in the last couple of years. And I'm currently working with Dom Tomato and Tim Champion as their agent. So Dom, I've been working with now for a little less than a year. Tim signed to the agency 4 days ago. So a little bit less experience there, but we'll figure that out. But have been able to work with them to leverage their social media, their following into larger deals and working outside of just the parkour realm in terms of what they can accomplish with their following. So what businesses look for out of partnerships? This is kind of just an overview. You want to know what the other side is looking for so that you can kind of cater to that to make sure that you're coming in with a plan. So most businesses are looking for return on investment, ROI. For any particular partnership, you're going to hear ROI if you talk to any sort of business a majority of the time. For individual sponsorships, it almost always comes in the form of sales from eyeballs in their product. I know a lot of hardcore people recently were working with a brand called G Fuel, basically an energy drink. Obviously, we have Red Bull in the space as well. All sorts of shoe companies that are jumping in, whether they be parkour specific or not. Their goal at the end of the day is to get sales on their products, and they're going to look at how they advertise, how much they spend, and whether or not they're translated into sales. That's not the only thing they look for, so it's important to know kind of the other stuff they're looking for, which could be spending their budget. Red Bull is probably given $10 million per year for a budget. And if the marketing department does not use that $10 million, if they only use 8 million, next year they're only getting 8 million. So they're going to want to use every dime that they have. And sometimes that could be used to your benefit. Good press, obviously, partnering with creators is a good look publicly. You better believe that Red Bull is not in the space because they're making money necessarily on running Art of Motion. But they absolutely market the hell out of it to everyone that's, here, and we've all seen it. So access to specific demographics. Obviously, Parkour has a pretty specific demographic in terms of teenage to young adult males for the most part. And if a business is looking to market to that group outside of the video game space, this is a great way to come and find, how to do that. And then exploring new advertising categories. Parkour is a pretty untapped market. So the more popular it gets, the more we're going to see businesses dip their toe in and see if it's worth being a part of. And that's kind of where individuals, businesses, gyms, events come into play. I apologize also. I saw everyone else's presentation. Everyone had nice pictures, and mine's just words. I apologize. How to market yourself as an athlete online. So the most important thing that I have seen, whether it be poker athletes, gaming, Instagram models, whatever it might be, is to post regularly. Consistency of schedule is probably the most important thing to businesses because they want to know exactly when their money is going to be put into use. As someone who did dailies in 2012 and then didn't post for 2 years after that because I tore my Achilles, probably not the best method of going about it. If you can't post every day and keep that going, don't post every day. Keep a schedule that makes sense for you to post. It's better to be once a week than to be every day for 2 weeks and then not at all for 2 weeks. Then businesses are going to be like, okay, what's going on? Are you gonna stay with it or you're not going to stay with it? Is this a fad that you're into? Like what's happening? Make sure the content is also consistent. If every third image on your Parkour Instagram is of a meal you're eating, probably not super relevant to the buyer. You probably want to if you want to do a Mealstagram, make a separate account. If you want to do a Parkour Instagram, keep that going. If you want to do a Parkour YouTube, keep that going, but then don't do a day of shopping somewhere in the middle of there. It doesn't quite fit. The numbers are going to be probably pretty low on it. It's going to affect overall everything, and buyers are going to point that out pretty immediately in terms of what does this channel want to be and how can I get into it. Quality of content, also obviously pretty important. Everyone wants to work with high quality, family friendly content. I think we all, in our communities have the group of, I'll call them gremlins, that spend the entire video smoking weed and giving the finger. Probably not the best content if you're looking for sponsors. Just be pretty obvious about that. Format the post for the platform. Your Instagram stuff shouldn't be the same as your YouTube shorts or your YouTube stuff, horizontal versus vertical. If you want to run a TikTok, talking head box sometimes works really well, but the format for each platform should be different. You should be really catering to each platform. And then the movement. I think people really emphasize how important it is that the movement is like, oh, I got to put the best stuff out there only. It doesn't have to be your best movements. People have to know that you're moving. It's great if the movement is super high quality, but if it means not, missing 2 months of posting because you're not getting the best footage that week, show the bails, show the behind the scenes, do something to make the footage relevant and consistent. And continue to grow. This is pretty obvious. I think everyone here wants, as large of a platform as possible, but in doing so, it means a deep dive on your own channels. If something goes viral, figure out why it went viral. Do a deep dive on your account pretty regularly in the last 6 months. What were the top 5 posts? What were the bottom 5 posts? What did I do differently between them? Let's maybe cater a little bit to the ones that are doing really well. And maybe that's where I find a niche. Cross-posting between platforms is a must. You should be pushing everyone to what you consider to be your main channel, but your Instagram reel can be a YouTube short, which can be a TikTok, just slightly formatted differently, but they can live on all 3 platforms. And you're really making sure that your whole audience notices your content across the board, because you might be growing a different audience on Facebook or YouTube than you are on TikTok and Instagram. And then know your platform. Growing on Instagram is very different than growing on YouTube. If you're on Instagram, you should be doing reels and carousel posts. Those are the 2 things that get shared to the general public way more than stories and single photo posts. So knowing that and then dedicating time to growing the platform based on those 2 things is going to be way more important at first to get your channel up and running. And then once you have a channel up and running, focusing on stories so that your channel keeps coming back. Your followers keep coming back to see what's going on in your life. Knowing that about each platform is going to be super important. I don't have a lot of time. Obviously, I didn't get into each platform, but can always chat about that for anyone who has questions about it. How to market your event to sponsors. This is one where when I was working with SPL was a pretty constant source of how do we get money infused into the business. And there's a lot of things I learned after leaving that space that I wish I had applied when I was there. And the most important one is start looking for sponsors early. Businesses need at least 2 months to make marketing budget moves. If you're talking about Red Bull, Nike, some of the bigger companies, you're talking 9 months minimum to even get going. If your event is in August, you're talking to them in December, because that's when they're allocating the budget for that quarter. It's that far in advance. Can't go a month before and be like, money, please. It's just not going to work for a lot of these businesses. Negotiations take time. And yes, you can negotiate. Do not take the first thing they offer. It sounds so businessy, but it also is, they expect you to negotiate. They're coming to you with a bad offer because they want to get the most out of their money. It's okay for you to do the same thing on your side. And if you can't get budget for the event, find another way to work together. If there's a local shoe company that wants to be a part of it, but they don't have budget this time around, great. How about this? During the event, we'll shout you guys out twice. And we'll send people to the shop, and then next time let's already get on pen and paper. Next time we have an event, we can work together, and we'll see what the sales look like and if we can make some numbers match. But find a way to get in to start getting sponsors, especially if you're a newer event or it's going to be a more low-key event. Doing stuff for free isn't terrible as long as it matches the work you're doing for them. A sponsor deck goes a long way. Bring a visual. I mean, I could have just sat here and kind of read this blankly, but having a visual always helps. It should have information about what the event is, who's going to be there, who the demographics are, how many eyeballs are going to be on it. Are there going to be social posts, YouTube follow-up, all that stuff. And then get creative. It shouldn't just be like, oh yeah, if you give us $100, we'll say your name. Like, yeah, okay, that's not a bad play, but it's not the most creative play. You know what? Make that $1,000 and we'll actually print some posters. We'll do the printing. You give us your logo. We'll do the printing. We'll get those posters up. It's work off their shoulders. The posters cost maybe an extra $100 to make, and you just increase that, that value tenfold. And then let businesses know how they're going to benefit as being a part of your event. Hey, by the way, we have a ton of youth in this event with their parents who have obviously disposable income. We're at a parkour gym. This is the thing they do. Let's talk about how to get those youth hopefully not drinking Red Bull, but into your size 12 kid sneakers. Or when I worked with Apex, we had a chiropractor who was part of the deal, and members got 10% off. And great, you're injured, let's get to them to make sure you're up and running and as healthy as possible. Local business, let's make something work there. And take opportunities to advertise outside of the event itself. It doesn't have to be, we're running an event, we'll put a poster up. Like, the number of eyeballs you can get on a poster in your gym or in your facility is very limited compared to what you can do online. So make sure we're talking about announcing posts, announcing partners of events in their own individual post. We'd love to thank Red Bull for being a part of this. Without them, we couldn't have made this work. YouTube recap. By the way, this entire thing was brought to you by Olo Shoes. Like, they contributed to the prize fund for every single category here. We couldn't have done it without them. And then emails, which I think is super underutilized in the parkour space. Every gym has a number of clients that are signed up there. They have emails. We'll get to whether or not it's okay to sell their email and their information, but it's an option. Newsletters are great for that as well. And then obviously filming the content, put it on YouTube, put recaps up on social media after the fact. Everyone who filmed from that event should be posting, tagging their gym, their event. How to market your gym. Content is still king. Every gym, whether it's a gym, indoor, business, whatever it is, class, should be making content and marketing via video content, because that is where you're going to get the most amount of eyeballs. And it feels a little bit pointless at first when small communities get started and our video only got 15 views, 30 views, 60 views, 120 views. It's going to keep doubling. It's going to keep growing. It's probably not going to do worse. So just keep, be consistent and get up and running. Stora started with, 10,000 followers at one point, and they post every Monday, and they're going to post every Monday at 10 a.m. my time. And then sure enough, they're at 10 million. It's insane to see their growth, but it's part of that is the consistency, and they're going to keep making content. Active social media presence, all of their social media is linked to their one YouTube channel. And members should be excited to tag the gym in their posts to make sure that individual athletes at each gym, each area can tag their local class, gym, sponsor, whatever it is. And start local. Go to local businesses, go to food eateries and areas around just to see who wants to work together. If you can offer 5% discount at the pizzeria across the street, do that. It's something. It's great to have that name on board and to say, hey, by the way, you know, we offer all members 5% off on a slice across the street. Very New York of me, but that's where I'm from. In terms of endemic businesses, it's better to start with endemic. For those who don't know, endemic means kind of part of the community naturally. So in parkour, it really is going to be shoes, you know. Outside of that, though, begin to hit up, oh, we have clocks on the wall for, you know, classes to do workouts. Let's see if anyone local is making clocks to be able to do digital, you know, timers and maybe represent them. Why not? I mean, they make clocks down the road. Who knew they were there? We might as well get something going. Email lists are more valuable than no. The unfortunate reality is that selling data is huge. I'm not saying sell it to the first random bidder, but if you have a sponsor and what you can offer is to get your 100 members signed up to their mailing list, and all they have to do is either unsubscribe or opt out when they first sign up, it's not bad. It gets something going and it allows information to be traded, because maybe the eyeballs aren't, hey, we're not really interested in the eyeballs of your fledgling YouTube channel, but you have 150 members. That's 150 members to a newsletter that we might be sending out. Why not get that going? And again, give them the option to opt out, your clients to opt out, but it could be worthwhile to begin to get that information, store it. People come for events, should be signing up with their email, and you should be adding them to your newsletter, and you should be potentially saying, hey, by the way, if you're okay, we have sponsors, would you be open to us giving them your information? That's the only people we'll give it to. Don't sell it. It sounds way worse than it actually is. But yeah, gym newsletters, huge source of opportunity for sponsor eyeballs and everything there, you know, talking to your clients regularly. And then we have across the board marketing tips. This is for individuals, events, businesses, whatever whatever business you may have that's in the parkour community.
Vinny, I don't want to interrupt you. Just giving you like a 60-second warning or so.
Done. I'll run through it quickly. Know your value. Do not overpromise, underdeliver. Don't do stuff for free unless it matches the deliverables. Hey, 5% off in the pizzeria, and all we got to do is have a poster up in the wall. Great. But you want me to do, have your name in every newsletter? Absolutely not. That's too much. That's worth too much money. Give businesses something to latch onto. Businesses want eyeballs and info. Use them to your advantage. It doesn't hurt to reach out. Reach out to everyone. Make sure you have a plan when you're reaching out, but reach out to everyone. Again, sometimes they just have marketing budget to spend. Go try and find that budget. Go reach out to them if you think it's worth, if it makes sense for your individual Instagram or whatever it might be. And please don't sign anything until you read the contracts. Every industry ever has gone through this, but read the contract, know what you're signing. Ask an agent, ask a lawyer. Don't go crazy with it. Like, there could be some stuff in there that really, hamstrings you long term. 15 minutes. I wasn't paying attention at the time, so hopefully it was like right on there. Thank you. That's it. That was the last slide.
Thank you very much, Vinny. If you guys want to send any questions you have in the chat, and then Vinny, just kind of keep an eye on the chat. If questions roll in, you can reply to them directly there, and that'll be really valuable for people. All right, cool. I am excited to say that takes us to our next speaker, who is last but certainly not least. This is going to be Jimmy Davidson. Welcome to the floor, Jimmy.
Hey, everybody. All right. Am I pinned to the front? Should I wait?
You're about to be. Hang on. Got to find you amidst the 39 people and then pin you.
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right. There you almost are. You can go right ahead. It'll be done in a moment. I'm struggling for no good reason.
Okay, what's up, everybody? My name is Jimmy Davidson. I'm the owner of a number of parkour gyms in Southern California, Freedom in Motion, and I'm also founder of Motion Mentors. We're a company that helps parkour businesses, parkour gyms, and other businesses find profitability and scale. So today I'm also going to be talking about marketing, but in a more like tactical, specific type of view. And so let me give you sort of a sense of where I started. So back in 2014, when we first opened our gym, I think like a lot of you guys, whether you have a parkour gym or whatever your business is, you probably started as an athlete, as an enthusiast. And from that, you had a personal experience of that parkour really rocked your life, really, really changed, your experience of yourself. And you wanted to give that to kids, teens, and adults, the people around you. And so maybe you opened an outdoor program, maybe you opened a gym, maybe you did X, Y, and Z, and you had the passion. But if you were anything like me, you had no parkour or no business experience. And so what that looked like for me was I, spent the first 4 years on the brink of bankruptcy year after year. I think we got our business up to like 9,000 a month, which is not workable if you want to have like an entire career, if you want to have a family and sustain coaches and grow the parkour industry, which is what I really want to do. And that wasn't workable. So after literally going out of business once, and then we restarted, I just was frustrated and went and sought a mentor, like literally was on Google searching, what does a CEO do? I was really feeling that I had no experience. And so my first big move was I hired a mentor, paid someone $5,000. They taught me basic marketing and basic sales. With that, we went from the 9,000 to 20,000 every single month, and we grew from there. Since then, that revealed that there's a whole marketing, there's a whole sales, there's a whole operations, there's a whole scalability component to business that I didn't get. And that started like a whole journey of, that started a whole journey of, trying to get better. And so since 2018 to right now, just calculated this yesterday for another conference I'm putting together, we have 25x'd our business since 2018. And I want to just give you 15 minutes worth of how did that happen? Okay, so the number one takeaway for us was that marketing was huge. Actually, before I say that, this isn't part of my talk, but I will say that adjusting our pricing from our like, let's try to be the cheapest gym in town to actually flipping it. Now we're the most expensive gym in town, kid service for group classes. That instantly multiplied our business by 6x. So that's my fat caveat. Explore your pricing before you do much else. Okay, back to the marketing part of it. So we discovered, we weren't sending those emails. We were actually posting a ton on social media, but we had no point to it. And we didn't have a defined target audience. And those things I want to just point out today and not just say that you should send emails, but really create why and how and what's the effect going to be. Adam, am I clear to share my screen here?
Yep, you're good to go.
Sick. All right, everybody. So I am here in Motion Mentors, our company that helps parkour gyms grow. We have a number of online courses, and I'm jumping into our marketing course just because it's already put together to kind of show you guys some things here. So you see that we have this funnel right here. This is your leads in, your sales out. This is your funnel. And you see at the top, you have social media coming in, your organic coming in. Organic could mean like your website has strong SEO. Maybe your Google My Business page is properly formatted so people can actually find you if they search like kids summer camps in name of city. And you have your referrals, right? So those things need to be optimized for. Over on the side, I'm going to just click through the different lessons. We're not going to do this whole thing together today. I'm going to skip some of it. But the number one thing that I had to really first discover was who is my target audience, my avatar. An avatar is a singular unit of a target audience. And I started with this exercise called a seed client exercise. And what it is you take your top 10 clients by revenue, so the people who just paid you the most in the last year, and then your top 10 clients that you just love the most. That one family that comes in that you're just stoked when they're there. They're always at your events. You create those two lists and you find that people end up on both lists. And those people, you circle them and you zoom way in and you figure out who are they? What are they doing? Like, what's their occupation? How do they get to my website? What are they purchasing in my gym? Are they parents? Are they teenagers? You know, what are they? And that is your seed client. From there, guys, I'm going to go to my next little lesson here. From there, once you know your avatar, you can start thinking of their pain points. Like, why did this mother, this parent, sign their kid up for parkour? Maybe because their kid is sedentary, their kid hates team sports, their kid has low self-esteem, their kid has ADHD and can't function in a lot of other sports. And I'm going off of kids, but maybe your target audience, like Tyler, Trueblood's the first speaker here, his target audience are a lot of us on the call, like parkour athletes. So whatever that is, you start to design your marketing around their pain points and around their client, their client identity. And you can ask yourself, what are the visuals that a parent would need to see for them to self-identify when they see your ad that you're speaking to them? You know, what do they need to see? What do they need to hear? What kind of testimonies do they need to see? And I have just some examples here, or this is actually like a self-guided test as part of this, but maybe if you're going to the committed parkour athlete, if you're going to the parent, maybe you're just talking to weekend warriors, maybe people who kind of bounce around between parkour, rock climbing, yoga. You know, there's different avatars here. You want to zoom in on that message. After you've done that, now you're going to start adjusting pretty much everything you're about to match that. I'll scroll away from this for a second, but I found one gymnastics gym somewhere in the country who had like the worst website ever, and then compared it to my own. And basically, like, you can do things to tweak your website to speak right into the whites of the eyeballs of your target audience and tell them, go here, click this, become a lead, and then the next step. So you can optimize your website. You can optimize how your social media posts look, for example. All right, cool. So I'm going to move on to a couple other things. Selling by email. I'll actually go to the blog because this is going to help too. My gym sends 2 emails minimum a week, every single week. And so a lot of times when I say that, people are like, well, aren't they going to unsubscribe? The best way to get no one to unsubscribe is to either have a list of 0 or never send an email. That's the only way to get someone to never subscribe. But you have an email list to connect with people. The next thing I always hear people say is like, well, I don't have anything to talk about this week. That's a great way your blog can come into handy. So on your blog, guys, I'm going to jump over to Freedom in Motion's blog. Here it is. So you can talk about like things that differentiate you against a local competitor. Maybe you're talking about the events you have going on, or parkour itself, why parkour is the best cross-training for athletes. You can have articles like this be the headliner in your blog. They can be the subject line of your blog so that parents know that there is something valuable in here. And then one little half scroll down, and now it's your summer camp ad. Half scroll down, now it's your parents' night out or your Nerf night, or that you're enrolling for competition team this month. So your blog is actually like a Trojan horse for emails. Also, side note, your blog is wickedly good at improving your SEO. So if you want to attack like your local gymnastics gym, just publish stuff like this top article up here that gymnastics sucks and parkour is the real deal. So like, here we are. You know, you can start hijacking people's keywords when you have a blog. And there's a bunch of other little tactical things to do in there, but dang, blogs are very good, guys, I promise. Okay, next. So now we have something called a social media funnel. If you guys go to my Parkour Gym's Instagram and you clicked on our link in the bio, it actually goes to this whole page that is like tailored for if you're a lead that came from social media. You can go to a try a class page. You can go to our birthday party booking page. I have an optimized social media funnel. And the way that we post is, let me scroll down to that one. The way that we post is also very specific. We're trying to, here we go, types of posts. We have these different types of posts, like a user-generated content type of post. That's, for my avatar, parents need to see that. We have, you know, these feel-good posts, families who want to make sure that their kids are going to the right type of environment. We are creating our type of environment via our social media and also our emails and also the way that we conduct ourselves personally at live events. You know, there's atmospheric posts. So like, what does it look like when your kid's training in this gym? Even though the viewer might not, this might be the first time they've ever seen parkour or that my gym is in town, but we are instantly in the conversation of this is what parkour looks like at our gym. Maybe you're highlighting a product, Parkour Summer Camp highlight. You're highlighting a testimonial. You're doing a celebrity post. Maybe local celebrity parkour athlete, or even like your city's mayor. That totally qualifies. So your city's mayor visits your gym. You guys can post about that. You guys can have articles on your blog about that. Okay, cool. So moving on from that, we have just general SEO. There's lots of great free websites and free YouTube videos that'll show you how to hijack key search terms, how to get most of the traffic in your area to start flowing to you as opposed to local gymnastics gym or whatever. Search engine optimization really relies on how you have set yourself on Google and the search engines, how you've typed your homepage and your other pages on your website using keywords such as parkour kids classes in name of your local city, right? So kids for my avatar and name of local city for my avatar, because I'm going for local parents, not parents on the other side of the country. SEO is a huge thing that if you aren't familiar with, let me just open that door for you. There's a ton there as well. This whole thing then goes into like print marketing, how you can leverage the space in your gym. I'll skip that one. The last big one being just like literally creating Facebook ads and Google pay-per-click ads. Everything I said so far can be free. You can send those two emails a week to your list. You can post on social media, and that'll get you a fair amount of money in the door. But at a certain point, when you want to start really revving it and you want to go from, I said earlier, 20,000 just on like basic social media marketing. Now our gyms are up to 60, 75, 100,000 per location per month. You guys, I would suggest running ads. And so we have like a whole in-depth training on how to do that. But you actually don't oftentimes need to get this like 80-hour in-depth certification. A lot of times it's go watch a YouTube video. Go create one banger video that just shows kids. And again, I'm talking about my avatar, which are parents, so they want to see kids. Show a video of kids working with your coaches. Show those parents smiling at their kids doing the basic parkour movements in your gym. Do not show like your sweaty coaches doing a double Kong and then like a round off double back, because a parent immediately disassociates with that. They'll think it's cool and they might even hit that juicy sweet like button, and then you'll get 0 juicy sweet dollars in your bank account. You want to show them what they need to see to self-identify as your client and that you are solving their pain point by their kid fitting in at your program. So make those videos. Get clear on your target audience so that you can target them on Facebook, which would be, make a 8-mile radius around your gym, which Facebook can easily do. Just type in your address, 8-mile radius. You might even tell Facebook to target specifically parents with kids between age range. What's really wacky is if on your seed client exercise, you find that a particular group of your best clients are all coming from a certain neighborhood, you can actually type in that neighborhood, you can type in that area code, you can even draw with a geofence little thingy and target people specifically. And it's not that tough, actually. It's just a little tricky to get started. And then from there, once you have your leads flowing in, you just want to have the right software on the back end to actually do something with your leads. So if you don't have a CRM, a CRM is a lead management software, essentially. If you go to motionmentors.org and click on CRM, there's a video example of what a CRM does and looks like, whether you get that one or any other one. I'm an advocate that you get a CRM anywhere. What that does is it helps you or your sales team actually connect with those leads and book them and then get them in the door. Because if you don't connect those circuits, everybody, you can market out your nose. You can market until your head explodes. But if you then don't actually book them for your gym, for your trial class, or maybe if you're, a t-shirt seller, like if you don't actually get someone to interact with your product, you're selling shoes, you don't get someone to try it on at the store, you don't get that first experience initiated, then your marketing really takes a baseball bat to the knee. So there is like a whole entire story here that goes after the marketing pitch. But the reason why I wanted to focus on marketing for my speech today was because my hot take on the parkour industry is that our biggest constraint the thing that if we opened up and alleviated, it would just really help our entire industry, was if we got more clear on who are we marketing to, and then how to specifically do it, which means how many actions. So 2 emails a day, 7 social media posts a week, maybe, whatever those individual units of input are, you have to define them and then you have to do them, right? You can't just say send email. It's how are you sending email to who and how often? Cool. So if you're interested in learning more about marketing, I'm here for it. I've spent at this point well over $100,000 on mentors teaching me, courses that I've paid for, events that I've shown up at, and books that I've read. So I feel like I've got a pretty solid head start, and I'd love to show you guys as well. But a free place to start, a book that I love a lot is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, I think it is, Building a Story Brand. Excellent book about clarifying your message and getting it out there. And then past that, $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi, I like a lot. Also on my blog, motionmentors.org, we have tons and tons of free articles that you guys can look up right now. Actually, 2 days ago, we posted one about how to make hooks, how to write hooks for parkour videos or parkour written ads. Like literally the step-by-step way on how to write those hooks and what different types of hooks exist. And that's like a huge marketing topic. So if you want more of that, more free resources, motionmentors.org. All right. My name is Jimmy Davidson. That was 16 minutes and 48 seconds. I'll take questions, or Adam, if we're done, I'll leave it over to you.
I was kind with my jumping in there. Okay, yes. So I just want to make a couple of quick announcements, and then basically I'm going to let this meeting loose. I will monitor for appropriateness and safety and moderate, but other than that, we'll just kind of hang out and see what the heck happens. But before we do that, I want to kind of point out 2 great things. If you found a lot of value in gathering in this virtual setting and getting to hear from other people and chatting and hanging out in the chat room and cracking jokes and asking questions, getting answers, resources. There's more of what we're doing right now happening in the community a lot. And I want to make sure everybody here knows that. One that I want to point out is Christopher Hollingsworth, in partnership with Jimmy, hosts a call that I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, is alternating Fridays in the afternoon Eastern. I don't know exactly what time. What time is it?
Yeah, let me grab that. I'll come back in a second.
Okay, you could throw it in the chat if you don't mind. That would be super helpful. But every other Friday, Christopher Hollingsworth holds a meeting. It's kind of meant for like general managers, but owners can be there, coaches can be there, managers of business can be there. I know that's valuable information. And then the Parkour Gym Owners Facebook group also has a monthly call. It's the first Monday of every month. I typically host it. And that's also just a free come hang out, learn some stuff session. So put those on your calendar, get involved in those calls if you're finding value in this type of thing. There are some organizations and or people who are kind enough to volunteer and put stuff like this on it regularly. So there's no reason not to attend to those. And then of course, USPK is going to be doing more stuff like this, so stay tuned. If you are a USPK member, deeply appreciated. If you're not a USPK member, either as an individual or as a business, we do humbly ask that you consider that. You are supporting a great cause that is, albeit in the infant stages, doing a lot of really powerful work to help our industry in the big picture. And so that would be amazing. Also, the more things like this happen, the more we're going to be notifying you guys as members, giving you discounts, free access, et cetera, et cetera. So there will be ongoing value in being a USPK member to see and be a part of these things. If anything, just the value of being in touch with everyone, I think is really meaningful. I think I've been talking this whole time with Jimmy pinned, so let me undo that. Apologies. Okay, and I think that's it as far as the structured part of this, guys. Alan just posted a link on how to join USPK, so that's a great thing to do. Yes, Jimmy has the link in our chat as well for the hooks. That's very helpful. And guys, like I said, basically I'm going to turn this meeting off in terms of the structure. And on in terms of it being a hangout session and just a networking case. I know we can only kind of talk one at a time, but that's it. I'm gonna let everyone loose. You can unmute yourself if you want to. You can depart if you want to. And it's been such a pleasure. Above all, I want to thank the speakers for making time not only to be here and speak, but the time they spent preparing, coordinating, communicating to put their content together. So thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you, Adam, and USPK and everyone else for organizing it. It was definitely an honor to be invited to speak. So thank you, everybody. I will hang out for a little while. This is Jimmy Davidson talking. If any of y'all have
questions about marketing or sales. I really like sales too, or gym operations, or anything that you may have seen me post about. Yeah, I also I'll plug this. We have a parkour industry convention, which is an in-person gathering next month in December. So if you want more of this in person, I just posted the link in the bio. We have Daryl Stingley joining us as a special guest. It's going to be a 3-day in-person deep dive. So you can ask me questions on what the heck is that about as well. And all right, so thanks again for the opportunity. I'll hang around and keep an eye on the comments. If y'all have questions, just call me out by name.
Hey, am I good to talk?
Go for it.
All right,
Anyone can.
Hey, I had a thing I wanted to share. I put a message about it in the chat. I run a community resources page for free on my website. Literally all I need for it, if anyone has a service that you think would be valuable for the parkour community to know about, all I need is a headshot, an email, your name, and like a service description, and I can add you into that. And again, that's for anyone who's in here and has a service that could be helpful for anyone in the parkour industry. Again, this is a totally free service. It's just free marketing. Yeah, I just need you to email me. I left my email in the list. So yes, please, if you want to be involved in that, just let me know.
Jimmy, what kind of information have you seen strike a chord with most parents in your marketing? All right, that's a question from Sebastian. If you look through our blog, you'll find out, because every time we find one of those like key pain points that we're solving, we make a whole article about it and we go pretty hard on it. So some that really resonate are, first of all, I always open with a hook. So an easy hook is just a call out hook. So, hey parents, because a parent is my target audience. So, hey parents in Murrieta, call out plus city. And then I say what their pain point is. And let's say, and your question is, what are those pain points? And they would be, your kids are addicted to screens. Your kids quit sports too easily. Because that's a huge frustration of parents, that kids stick with something for a month and a half and then rage quit. So I'll even zoom in on that one. In a lot of our marketing, we will say, and this is true because we researched it, that kids stick with parkour at Freedom in Motion on average for 400% longer than other team sports. And making it into that one sentence with a number that they can easily get does a lot, you know? So, hey, parents in name of city, are you tired of your kids quitting soccer after just a week? Kids who try parkour at Freedom of Motion stick with the sport for 400% longer, which gives them an opportunity to discover that they have found their new favorite sport or something. Other ones might be that you want to get your kids off of screens. We see that a lot. We see just saying ADHD, or does your kid suffer from ADHD, or, you know, is struggling in school? Parkour, and this is backed by research that everyone on the call can use. Parkour has been shown to help kids focus in school and do better academically. So you can write ads like that. You just got to research what those pain points are. Sebastian, not knowing totally what gym or business you have, I would need to know a little bit more about your target audience and your specific avatar.
Nice.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, big time.
Adam, I got a question for you. With
Yeah.
your presentation, have you had a version of that you've done with like a staff meeting kind of setup, where you talk about the overarching themes there?
Close. Yes, I've done. I have 2 different full-on multi-hour presentations. So at my old day job, the childcare martial arts business, our leadership team regularly went through trainings that were led by our executive team, and I was always one of the presenters for that. So we've done full trainings on basically each of those books. And so I've got like extensive PowerPoints that I'll sometimes steal from, convert, and then use either for the parkour team. And we are still ongoingly doing those for that major company for me as well. So I've got lots of presentation resources on this stuff.
Cool. Is it something where you notice like an immediate shift in the like sentiment?
Particularly, so two things on that. One, our upper level coach, we call our lead coaches. Once they're in charge of other coaches, they get the title of lead coach. We have a couple of those. And they are required, not required, as part of their evaluation process, as part of their development. The person who manages them, it's actually like they join like a little book club with their manager. And their manager walks them through these Arbinger books, those leadership, self-deception, outward mindset. They read those and then do a book club with their manager to kind of discuss what those things mean, partially for their personal development, which is just really nice because they're thinking about their girlfriends and then thinking about their parents or their siblings and ways their life can be better. So that's a nice deposit into their personal life. But obviously we're saying, hey, and are we seeing our students that way? Are we seeing our fellow coaches that way? Blah, blah, blah. So it's like a little book club that we use as development, and then we'll do professional training, over top of that when it's appropriate. So yes, it's like built into the leadership. Once you get into the leadership side of our business, if you manage or oversee people in some way, we've built, in particular, the Arbinger books into that.
Cool, thank you.
Super worth it. The paradigm shift, the Arbinger, so 7 Habits is I'm sure a lot of people here have read the 7 Habits. It's probably one of the most common self-help books in the world. 7 Habits is a good, powerful book. It's full of tools. And I think it's well worth reading. But the lesser known Arbinger books, Leadership and Self-Deception in particular, in my opinion, it's like this thick. It's the tiniest little book. It's in a narrative style. It's so easy to read. And it's a real paradigm shifter. You finish that book and you're like, son of a bitch, I could be such a better person and I'm not. That's what the book does to you. And then you read it 5 more times and it has the same effect over and over and over and over and over again. So I love those books because they're a massive paradigm shift. And when delivered and done correctly, I've seen that effect almost every time. Yeah, I love them. Everyone here should read Leadership and Self-Deception and The Outward Mindset. They're 2 easy, simple, absolutely fantastic books. I cannot recommend them enough. Even if you're not a book person, you should read them. They're easy to read. They're a narrative perspective.
So you said 7 Habits of Atomic Habits?
The 2 in particular I was talking about are Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute. And then that same author organization also wrote The Outward Mindset. Those 2 you absolutely should read. There's no excuse not to. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey is also a very powerful tool. Definitely a longer, bigger, harder read. Not really hard, but it's more dense and more like, this is a business book or a leadership or self-development book. Whereas the Arbinger just feels like pleasure reading that hits you in the soul, to put it in a sentence.
What was that Alex Hormozy book that Jimmy brought up earlier?
That was $100 million leads.
Nice. Quite the title.
I'd also like to say that
Jimmy,
business
were you?
books
Yeah, go ahead.
are pleasure reads. Everybody, business books are pleasure reads. Let's all switch that mindset right now.
Touche.
And they're not all like dry. Like it's not like science books. Like a lot of them are very well. Like Alex's book is very well written.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have I don't know, you should make time to read. But also he's got a ton of videos online that you can just sit through and watch and yeah.
Mm. Mike McCallowitz is an author that makes his books pretty funny and pretty quippy with stories. And he was the author that got me into reading business books because he was the one that flipped that for me, that this is boring and I hate this, to, oh snap, I'm having fun and I'm learning. So that's Mike McCallowitz, and that's a doozy to spell. So if anyone wants me to pop that in the chat, let me know.
Yeah. Are we gonna have a list of books? Or Adam, maybe that was just for your slide.
So I just posted, as you were saying, I typed it. I also typed it earlier closer to my presentation. It's also on my slide, and it's also going to be in the recording that we send out to you guys on all of the slides and in the chat that you'll be able to see in the recording. So I believe you'll have plenty of ways to access these resources as this goes along. This whole meeting could turn into a here's some books I like. So look out.
I'm working on an article on motionmentors.org that is the top X books that have made the most impact for me. So maybe
Nice.
I'll interview you, Adam, and get Adam's top 10 books article.
Oh, I would love that. Don't even get me started. Yeah, let's go.
All right, official invitation just sent.
Awesome. Have you read the Arbinger ones, Jimmy? Because you would love them. They're little known. So please, 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 please. It'll take you less than a day to read it. It's like a 2-hour read, the first one, honestly. Easy peasy.
check it out. Don't be shy, cats. If you got a question, you just speak up. And feel free to, this is a great opportunity to be a little bit selfish, and you can ask a highly nuanced question about your business. So you could say, my gym has this specific problem, whether or not you think it's going to be useful to the group, because I guarantee you it will be useful to the group. So if you would like a little bit of free expert advice from me, Adam, and the others on the call, think about like really what is your constraint in your business, the problem that you need to solve, come up with a question, pop it up.
How do I get people to stop walking out the door after trials and not signing up?
The way you do that is actually not that tough. So what we teach parkour gym owners who hire us to like flip their sales processes, it starts with something called we call it the perfect first day procedure. So step one is have someone at the front desk, right? So you would have a sales team person, hopefully, or at least it's you, and then you have a coach. You just need 2 people, is what I'm saying here. That person comes in for their lesson. Your sales team greets them, gets them all set up, signs the gym waiver, whatever has to be done. And then your team walks them out to the training space and introduces them to the coach. Hey, little Timmy, this is Coach Seth. Seth is going to have an awesome session with you here at Swift Movement, you know, and then Seth runs just an epic class. That is actually the part that we're all really good at. After the class, the coach, and you actually hear that the coach is involved in the sales process here. It's not all on the sales team. The coach is trained to, after they dismiss the class, they actually call out the new kid by name. They say, hey, little Timmy, let's go talk to your parents. They bring little Timmy over to the parents. The coach connects personally with the parents, asks what their favorite thing was in class. You know, they talk about it. And then the coach basically says, do you have any questions for me? As soon as the parent has any question about memberships, schedule, policies, whatever, that is the coach's cue to say, oh, great question. Let me walk you on over to Jimmy at the front desk and he'll answer whatever questions you have. Go ahead and follow me. And it's not a do you want to follow me? It is a go ahead and follow me. It's a demand, essentially. And so you walk in front of them, they follow behind you. When you get there first, you kind of turn around and use your like body positioning to funnel them right at that front desk person. So Coach Seth just like brought them all the way up to me at the front desk. And then the coach would say, all right, guys, we have little Timmy here. He did so good in today's class. He did X, Y, and Z. So like say a real specific thing that the parent observed and tell that to your salesperson because your salesperson needs some context. They did so epic on our balance course. They actually got it first try with only 1 lava boot. Oh, so good, little Timmy. I'll see you next week, right? And then the coach gives little Timmy a high five, implanting that little Timmy will be there next week. And the parent sees that, implanting that little Timmy wants to come back next week, right? So now we're playing some kind of psychological jujitsu here. The coach leaves. Thank you, coach. Then the sales team, it kicks right into it, asking the parent, again, what was your favorite part of class? Now the conversation happens, and then the rest is I have a whole 3-day in-depth sales training workshop that I probably don't have time on the call to give anybody right now, but that is how you get people to not run out the front door. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in with just a tiny add to that, if that's okay. 100%, everything Jimmy said is right. There's not going to be like a quick answer to this also is important to say. Like you can hear what Jimmy has to say, what I have to say, and what anybody else here has to say for 30 seconds, and it's not going to like sharpen your skills enough to go out and fix your conversions by 30% and have everything be better. A lot of this is like you've got to figure out what is your script, like what is your whole process, starting from that lesson, like Jimmy was talking about, all the way through to your sales script of getting that close at the end, and how smooth is it? Like it's got to be a good script all the way through. It's got to be natural. It's got to work. It's got to funnel them the right way. It can't have a bunch of unnecessary crap. And it's got to have a good, strong finish and a good, strong close. We could probably spend an hour talking about cool little tricks and tips and things you can say to the kid and little, you know, it's kind of like Jimmy's implanting thing. I love to close off with the kid, give him the high five and say, hey, why don't you run over to dad and tell him how much you want to sign up for parkour for a sec, and I'm going to get your paperwork together. The parents giggle. It's a clear instruction. Parents are like, ah, geez, yeah, okay. And the kid's like, yeah, I really want to sign up for parkour. It just gives me that little bit of momentum. There's lots of little things like that you can do, but each one of those things aren't going to fix it. Like the whole needs to work. And so if you really want to like fix this problem, you need to like sit down with somebody. Jimmy's a great person to do it with. There's a lot of people on this call who are great people to do that with, and actually go through that process and that script and that whole sales process and make sure that it's smooth with someone who knows what smooth looks like. And that's going to give you the quick result.
I'll give you.
I think my weakest link is that sales pitch at the end. Yeah.
I'll give you a direct example, Sebastian. Pre-COVID, we used to have 55-minute classes, and our coaches would you would essentially you would finish a class, you would have 5 minutes to prepare for your next class, and then they would just be off. And that was killing us essentially. And it was actually kind of like it happened naturally during COVID that we just dropped our class time from 55 minutes to 45 minutes. And that instantly allowed for more opportunity and more time for the coach, who is in effect a salesperson in and of themselves. And if you're like, I assume you're just starting out. We're a relatively small operation here in Rochester, so we don't always have somebody that sits at the front desk, for example. But our coaches are the salespeople, and by giving them that 15 minutes of time, they are the people, like they know, just like Jimmy said, if there's a new kid in your class, you're going to talk to the parent. And you have 15 minutes where you actually get to recap with the parent and the child there, talking to them about it. And it makes it way more personable in that moment. And it creates this relationship and that connection. And it's like, oh, am I helping the bottom line by also dropping the class time? Yes, but also it's making it way more likely that you create and establish these relationships and have people come back the next time.
Well, what about just a bigger grace period? 45 minutes seems like a short class.
It's a totally workable. Flying Frog for Earning, all their classes are 45 minutes. My classes are 55 minutes.
Mine's 45 minutes, beginner.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, you could teach parkour classes in a dirt lot. It doesn't matter about the parkour gym, doesn't matter about the length. What really matters is what happens during the coaching time, and that the parents get that their kids got better or were invested into or developed the relationship with their coach. And if you can do that in 15 minutes and still charge full price, like, oh my God. So don't let those.
Just to prove how right Jimmy is, we don't even do our trial lessons as group classes. I'm one of those weird people that does one-on-one trials, individually booked one-on-one trials. It is 15 minutes of me and the kid, or the other coach and the kid. And then it's 10 to 15 minutes of me doing my conference and my close with them. And in the past, so real actual data numbers, in the past 2 months, I've closed 65% on the spot. Same day as the trial, I sign them up on a $200 a month membership, or more, depending on what package they select. That's the lowest priced one we offer. So if in 15 minutes, a little interaction with a kid, they don't even know what our whole group program is like. I just spend 15 minutes saying, look at the relationship between me, or if the other coach is doing it, look at the relationship between the coach and the student. And then let me tell you about our program and mirror the values and why it's important, make that good connection. Hey, what do you say? Let's get you signed up. And then they hand over the credit card. 65% of people in the past 2 months have said yes. To Jimmy's point, that was 15 minutes and they were like, cool, I'm good. I'm ready to go. That's all it takes.
Wow, that's great. 15-minute trial, as you're saying. Nice. Wow.
30-minute appointment, 15 minutes of actual coaching instruction, and we charge for it.
Nice. Sweet. Yeah, thank you.
We have a question from Devin, which is essentially, how do you attract adults to try parkour? Again, guys, if anyone else has questions, pop them up, because I think this might be the last question that we have in here. Okay, so attracting adults to parkour is what I said earlier. You got to figure out what their pain points are, and why does an adult sign up for any fitness program, right? So let's think about that. Why would an adult sign up for something? They want to have fun. They want to find community because they're alone and they just go to work all day and they feel like they don't have friends. And so an easy way to make friends is join a gym or go to the rock climbing gym or whatever. And maybe sometimes they see a parkour video, they think it's dope and they want to get started. Insert other reasons, pain points here. So what you would do is you have to clarify those things. Probably the easiest, most authentic one that you can just, you yourself, Devin, I don't know anything about you, but you probably can just pick up the ball and start dribbling this down the court right now, is that parkour is fun and it's a community. So you would show pictures of like adults hanging out, very beginner level adults, like never show like extreme parkour movements at all, really, because you're not attracting extreme adults. You're attracting just like local dude who has a tech job who's lonely and wants to come and hang out with friends, you know. So show that there's like a beginner session, then there's like a hangout with some beers or a hangout like in some hacky sack or something. Like you build that there's literally a community attached to showing up to this parkour session into your marketing, if that's the pain point that you're trying to solve. And then you market it. You put that in your media, you put that on your website, you put that on your SEO, you attack search terms like you know, making friends as an adult in name of city. Like really, I would attack that search term if I was trying to do what you said you're trying to do in the comments. So you just got to think like a marketer.
Jimmy, I have a question.
What if I unmuted myself? Okay, let's call this. We got one last question here, guys, and I think I'm going to have to call the meeting to a close just for the sake of the overall time of it and getting the recording in frame. So last question, last answer, and then we will close gracefully.
Tyler?
Yeah. So, so like a lot of business owners, they have to start off being able to kind of know a bit of everything. If there was one skill that you had to point out as like probably the most impactful and best skill for a leader to like grow and have, and not like can hire others to do, but to at least be like very familiar and well versed in regards of running a business, if you had to pick one skill or maybe two,
Yeah.
do you have one in mind?
Sure. So my pre-question to that question would be, what's the starting point? Because if one entrepreneur is coming into it with, you know, $500,000, that's a very different starting point than like literally nothing. Or if you're coming into it with no idea and no personal skills versus coming into it with a good idea and you already have skills, that would really change my answer on like what this entrepreneur should do next. But let me just speak to what the parkour industry's average, you know, audience member ought to be doing. And you're going to hear me repeat some things here. So you gotta have like a good value proposition. You have to understand like anything that you sell has to have value to the other person, right? So now we just started talking about marketing. Like after you've created the thing you want to sell, you then have to convince other people that it has value, right? If that doesn't happen, you never even get the little bit of an ember to start a fire at all. So, you know, provided your idea isn't awful, but if we're all trying to get people to do parkour, which is demonstrably an awesome product, the next step is, how do I find those people? How do I tell those people? How do I develop my own personal grit so that it isn't painful to send 2 emails a week, to post a social media thing a week, to work on marketing copy, you know? So a lot of that is sort of like, are you just being a baby and you can't do the freaking marketing tasks every single day and week that are requisite to success? If no, maybe a personal development journey is number one. If you just can do that, you have some grit, then it's being a good copywriter and being able to, you know, like target ads. Good copywriter, target ads. Ahead of that was, do you have the personal grit to actually get work done? Because it does take input if you want an output. Immediately after that, it's probably sales, you know? Like if you can't negotiate with people and get them to, you led your horse to the water, but you can't actually convince it to drink. You know, you get a mom into the gym, but you can actually convince her to put her card down right now today before she leaves forever. Then all your marketing is just sort of like just treading water. You need to actually then be able to make sales. The next part after that would be, you have to build a team and learn what actually drives a scalable business. So there's some Lego chunking, and where you start anywhere in that business and anywhere in that process will change the answer. And the best way to get clarity is just have a quick phone conversation with someone 2 or 3 steps ahead of you, wherever you are, and just interview, give them your question, give them your goal, and ask them what would they do, and just listen and like ask for their advice. If someone 2 or 3 steps ahead of you will really have high clarity on what you should be doing right now.
That was an awesome answer. I don't really even want to distract anybody from anything that was said on that on the business front. I think I just want to offer a different side of the coin to that, which is if you're a business person who you think you're doing some of, like, we could all sharpen our marketing, we'd all sharpen a lot of all the things that Jimmy was just talking about. And so I don't want to take anything away from those things. But if you have what you consider to be a good enough or a successful business, but your struggle is scaling, growing, all of a sudden you realize I'm just spending more time managing employees than I am actually doing the work anymore, because if that's where my scale is at. I think my answer, Tyler, is going to be, which isn't the only answer, it's just another answer. I think my answer is going to be being skilled at holding your people accountable and being consistent with your ability to hold your team accountable. Because I think it's consistent accountability that creates good culture, that creates a sense of fairness, that creates a sense of what you need for your business to grow. If you want to have 2 gyms, 3 gyms, 4 gyms, 5 gyms, then I think the thing that stands most in the way of that is a leader who's like, I don't know how to treat my people fairly. I don't have good systems in place. I don't actually blah, 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 blah. And so I think, you know, in the same way that being good at parkour and being good at business are different skills, there's a third lane, which is managing people and leadership. That's also its own entire world. That is separate from the other two completely. And so I would say, you know, if you need people to run your business for you, it might be time to consider your own skill set in the way of managing people, and accountability is for me a key word and a key skill to the center of that people management topic. Okay, guys, I think that's it. I really appreciate the time everyone had here today. Give me a little bit of patience with getting the recording settled, making sure it's easy to access, that everything works, and then emailing both groups from both Eventbrites and everything. So give me, you know, at most 24 hours or something, but you guys will receive the recording of this meeting, and it's much appreciated. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Adam. Thanks, USPK.
Take care. Later.
Bye, everybody. Such a great idea. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much.